Have you spoken with President Trump recently? Did you speak with him last night?
I know, I spoke to him twice today. I just spoke to him an hour ago.
How was your conversation? Did you talk to him about the New York Times report and the conversation you had about potentially asking him to resign?
Because the conversation here is what they said we did, we never did. I mean, I never asked President Trump to resign. We both talked about that.
You spoke with him about resigning?
No, let me be very clear. You're I have never asked the president to resign. So what the book said was not true. I never asked the president to resign. We talked about the ability to win the majority back in Congress. We're looking at inflation we haven't seen since the 70s. Gas prices higher than we've ever imagined.
Kevin McCarthy's trying to save himself. As you can see there, he is responding, and I'm actually happy to see that, to questions from this one particular reporter about his calling the New York Times reporting of him claiming that he told other Republican colleagues in a phone call that he was gonna tell President Trump to resign. This is after January 6th and how disgusted he was at the response and what they built up. Now, let's not forget now, he pushed on to things about, we have to talk about other things in the world. We're not talking about this anymore. Me and President Trump, we're great. But the question he didn't answer was, is this actually about whether or not you told Trump that he was gonna resign, that you wanted him to resign? Or was this about you lying that the New York Times report saying that you told everyone else you tell him to resign, whether or not that was false? Because you said it was false. Watch again what he said about where the point of this whole thing is. And it's not actually this, watch again.
Did you talk to him about the New York Times report and the conversation you had about potentially asking him to resign?
Because the conversation here is what they said we did, we never did. I mean, I never asked President Trump to resign. I have never asked the president to resign. So what the book said was not true. I never asked the president to resign.
Weird how we move that, because that's not what the book said either. Really fast, Mr. McCarthy, the California Republican who was campaigning to be Speaker of the House, that's the whole point of the reasons why he's so crazed about this. If his party wins the majority, he thinks he's gonna be Speaker of the House. He had dismissed this report as, quote, totally false and wrong. This report that he had told fellow Republican leaders that he would urge Trump to resign from office after the riot. That's what it actually was. Now, if you really wanna hear it again, this is what he said on that call that he said was not actually the problem. Watch.
Is there any chance, are you hearing that he might resign? Is there any reason to think that might happen?
I've had some few discussions. My gut tells me no. I'm seriously thinking of having that conversation with him tonight. Again, I mean, the only discussion I would have with him is that I think this will pass, and it would be my recommendation we should resign.
Brett, I'm seriously thinking of having that conversation with him tonight, and I'm gonna tell him that I think this thing will pass and that he should resign. Now, just because you didn't do it, doesn't mean you didn't say that.
Yeah, this is great. This is great. Everything about this story is so fantastic. I love it so much. I guess the first thing I wanna say is that Kevin McCarthy's a wuss, right? Kevin McCarthy is a sniveling little wuss. First of all, I love that they have him hold the microphone. Unfortunately, I have to can you hold this? Because we don't. This is local news. We don't have any resources. So hold the microphone. In post, we'll change it to say lie witness news instead of eyewitness news because you're a goddamn liar. But
that he is.
So there's a lot of different aspects to this. The first is, so the claim by the New York Times and by the book was that Kevin McCarthy, when he's talking to these Republicans behind the scenes, is like, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna go in there and I'm gonna tell Trump, listen, he is in trouble because I almost got killed by a mob of psychopaths on his side. And I'm gonna go into him and I think I'm gonna tell him that A, there's senators who are gonna vote against him, and B, he should resign when that happens. Because this is enough. I've had enough. And then he didn't end up having that conversation, which means he's a wuss because he got face to face with Trump and he was like, I don't know, and he wet himself.
That's actually the problem.
But yeah, but he is lying even now in that eyewitness news stand-up piece where he says, listen, he's lying about the claim against him because that's all he can answer. And then he's doing something that Republicans do better than Democrats on. It's called a pivot. When he gets asked and cornered, instead of saying, listen, I did lie about this, but not about that, he says, pivots to, Let's talk about inflation. Let's talk about the list of talking points that my side has researched and put millions and millions of dollars into presenting to people so that when cornered with real facts about how we're total damn liars, then we can change the conversation to something that we win on.
Well, and apparently that's worked long enough. Now, on the other side of this, though, he said he and Trump are great. Now, people did ask President Trump about it. I think Wall Street Journal actually reached out to him and talked to him from Mar-a-Lago. And he, for his sake, did also coordinate and at least corroborate that idea that McCarthy was saying. But I'm glad you brought up the wuss part because Trump kind of says it too. Let's go to this from the Wall Street Journal. Mr. Trump said that he wasn't pleased to learn of Mr. McCarthy's comments in the House leadership call, but he said the California Republican ultimately never advised him to quit, is the talking point that we're on now. He said that Mr. McCarthy quickly changed his stance, quote, when he found out the facts and embraced him fully a few weeks after the January 10th, 21 call. He made a call. Here's a bit of the wuss part. I heard the call. I didn't like the call. But almost immediately, as you know, because he came here and we took a picture right there, you know, the support was very strong. He pointed over to the space where they took that picture that, by the way, a part of this fallout, Kevin McCarthy was upset that that picture was released because he didn't want to be seen in that particular moment, kowtowing to the president that he just told his colleagues he wanted to tell them to resign. Continuing on, Trump continued on saying this. I think it's all a big compliment, frankly. Trump said of Mr. McCarthy and other Republicans who criticized him after January 6th, and then said that they would still back him. They realized that they were wrong and supported me. Those wusses. Now, by the way, he's still not even all the way out of the woods yet, because he was also asked, do you support McCarthy for speaker? Because obviously that's all Kevin McCarthy cares about. I asked whether he still supported McCarthy for speaker. Trump didn't answer directly. Quote, well, I don't know of anybody else that's running, and I think I've had actually a really good relationship with him. I like him, and other than that brief period of time, I suspect he likes me quite a bit. That's kind of saying, Brett, to him, hey bro, I don't like that stuff he said. I see how you flipped and got back and knelt back down in front of me. I think you might want to continue doing that if you want to get to those political aspirations that you keep dreaming about.
And that photo from Mar-a-Lago is just like, that was the moment when McCarthy was gonna go down to Florida and say, listen, I almost died on that day. I was terrified. This is my office, and you had wild-eyed thugs wearing horns running in to try to kill me and the vice president of the United States and to end democracy. But he gets down there in, Trump's summer home, and he's like, and this is one of those things that this is what supporters of Trump love about him. Like Jenks said this on Friday, but like they know that Kevin McCarthy is a sniveling little liar. And that's what they think about every single politician that has a job right now. And they love when Trump takes someone who is a fake bully and just smacks him right across the face. And I give Trump credit for that. It sucks, but like I assume Kevin McCarthy got back home and everyone's like, so how did it go? Did you tell him to resign? And he was like, I literally don't know what happened. I was there and there was a buffet and I ate my words and some delicious prosciutto. Like that's what happened. But this is the key to take away from what Trump is good at and people on the left typically aren't good at. Trump breaks a horse so he can ride it. What does that mean? He breaks Kevin McCarthy, he breaks Mitch McConnell, he breaks Marco Rubio, he breaks Ted Cruz so he can get rid of them? No, so he can ride them. So now they're tamed and domesticated and he can make them do what he wants. And there's always a fear in that horse that the cowboy's gonna kick him with the spurs again. And when you see the look on the face of Kevin McCarthy in that photo at Mar-a-Lago, he's been broke. And Trump doesn't have to ride him and make him Speaker of the House. He can get rid of him when he wants to. But in the meantime, he broke that horse so he can ride it.
I love this analogy, bro. So he can also dangle in front of him. I'll break you again if you get out of line. That's all it really is to it. And again, that's why Kevin McCarthy didn't want that picture out because they probably asked him, hey, how'd it go? And he wanted to say, great. But the picture doesn't show that.